why I quit teaching. This person asked how I got this job without any prior experience in the field. Lately, I've been getting a lot of questions about working as a quality assurance analyst and also how I switched from being a high school teacher to a quality assurance analyst. I thought I'd make a video just to kind of explain all of that, hopefully with some helpful information if you're looking into QA or even teaching. I do want to disclaim that this is just my experience. I taught high school English for 2 years at one school, and I've been a QA analyst for 8 months now for one company. So limited experience, but I will tell you what I know. Okay, let's start with why I quit teaching. When I started college, I did not know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I really liked English all throughout school. I was really good at reading and writing. And when your major is English, everybody asks you if you're gonna teach. And for the first couple years, I told people no, but eventually I was kind of like, well, what am I gonna do with this? I do have to make money somehow. So eventually I kind of just thought, okay, yeah, I'll teach. So I spent 4.5 years getting a bachelor's degree in English education. I was hired as an 11th grade English teacher. Technically, before I graduated college, I got an early release from my student teaching and I started with my own classroom 2 or 3 weeks before my college graduation, which was crazy. So I was 22 years old. I was teaching 3 sections of English 3, American Literature, and 3 sections of AP Language and Composition. I think age plays a role because my students were only 4, 5, 6 years younger than me. It's very hard to just suddenly be an authority and feel like an authority figure. I didn't have any crazy discipline issues. I never had to send a kid to the office or call a parent unless they were failing. I realized my personality type, I do not want to be in charge of other people. I don't want to be the person who has to constantly go and tell someone to put their phone away, ask someone if they did this work. I'm like a live and let live kind of person. If you want to pay attention, awesome. If not, okay, that's your choice. Just don't bother other people. But high schoolers, man. Teaching is also really hard because you are constantly having to think about at least 300 things at one time. There's just so much crammed into that one day. You have your class, maybe you start teaching at 8:15, you have that class. It can go great. But then you have a whole nother class starting at 9:15, and that one could be the exact opposite. You as a teacher could do the exact same thing and have a totally different result. While you're trying to present this lesson and be engaging and act like you care about commas, because you need to care or the kids won't care, that you also have to be thinking about what the 30 different kids are doing in their desks. Is anyone breaking the law? Is anyone doing something they shouldn't be doing? You're also getting emails from the administration, from parents, from other teachers. There's just so much. Teachers do so much, guys. It's also such a social job. Now, I don't think you have to be a super outgoing person to be a good teacher. For me, when I would get off work most days, my brain felt numb. I don't even know how to explain it. It's so busy throughout the day that when I would get home and Jackson would try to talk to me, I could barely communicate. I could not hold a conversation. I just needed to zone out. I have not felt that way since I quit teaching. I think new teachers should be given an extra planning period because 1 hour of the day is not enough time to lesson plan, to have your meetings that you have to talk to parents, to help students, to decorate your classroom, to grade papers. Don't even get me started on grading papers. It's so much. I got to the school between 6 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. almost every single day, and we didn't start class until 8:35. So I would get there 2.5 hours early just to make sure I was ready for that day. And I am a planner. I work ahead. It's just a lot. I can see how after a few years you would get into a groove and you would have your lessons, you would know what works and what doesn't, and that would kind of get a little bit easier. As a first and second year teacher, teaching English 3 and AP Language and Composition, I barely had enough time to keep up with the readings that I was supposed to be teaching. And especially at that AP level, I didn't feel like I was always prepared to give them what they deserved. I was just getting so burnt out and I was already becoming so negative. In education, there is a lot of negativity, and I understand why. Having been a teacher, some kids are awful and there's nothing you can do. They're just gonna be awful. It's very disheartening because you become a teacher because you want to help someone, teach someone, And reality is, it's not gonna be like the teacher's Instagram feeds that you're looking at. Some days, sure. Not even some days. Some classes, sure. But the reality of it is so different. So when I started to actually think about what I wanted to do instead of teaching, I decided I wanted a job where I didn't have to be on all the time, like where I didn't have to be up in front of people, like with teaching. You know, if you're having a bad day when you're teaching, you just have to put that away and like fake it till you make it. So I decided I wanted to look for a job where I could do the work without having to perform. A friend of mine worked in QA for a couple years at this point for the company I currently work for, and he was just talking to me about his job and mostly how the company treats the employees, because they're really known for that. He told me a little bit more about what quality assurance is and what you do as a software tester. He actually reached out to a recruiter, and then the recruiter contacted me. I will say, if you're trying to get a job in QA and you just don't even know where to begin, see if you know anybody who works for a company, either they are QA or they just work for a company that has QA, because connections really speed up the process a lot. Not that that's always required, it's just very helpful. But one thing that I made sure to do before applying was to tailor my resume to that job. My current resume was tailored for a teaching job, so it had a lot of education language. I Googled things about teaching resumes, how to use a teaching resume for other careers, and I found some really good websites. I will try to find them again, and if I do, I'll put them in the description box. But just taking things like grading papers and inputting all those grades, streamlined manual data entry. Basically, a lot of the skills that you use as a teacher, as well as in a lot of other careers, they transfer. You're gonna need to work with people, you're gonna need to have good time management skills. So even if your current job is not software focused, like mine wasn't, if you can demonstrate how those skills that you currently have will transfer over, that's great, do that. That brings me to some interview tips, and these are just in general. I think people underestimate how much posture and eye contact come into play with interviews. Our human brains make snap judgments on people, and if you come in confident and you look them in the eye and you smile, it's gonna make a difference. I would also suggest researching the company you're going to a little bit, know some things about them. Another interview tip is to come prepared with a question, because at the end of every interview, they're gonna say, did you have any questions for us? And it's okay if you say no, but I always prepare a question. One that I use a lot was, what do you value most in your employees? Because that gives them a chance to explain to me what they're looking for, and I can also then look at that value that they've given me and see if that lines up. Now let's talk about actually working as a quality assurance analyst, software tester. Seems more accurate. I'm pretty sure there's QA in lots of different fields and industries. My type of QA specifically is testing software. Our deadline day is Wednesdays, which is tomorrow. Today's Tuesday. So by end of day tomorrow, all of the new code has to be approved so that we can send it out to clients. Expectation versus reality. I did not expect it to be as technical as it is. I didn't realize how complex software is, and I didn't realize how much discussion and effort would go into deciding teeny tiny details. You think a button being blue is just blue because it's blue? No. Probably if they had a good software development team, it's blue because of very specific reasons. I also started remotely because I started last June. I'm still working remotely, but this company previously did not work from home at all, so there was a big adjustment period for them. I tested it a little bit yesterday, and I think there's one other place. It's kind of sad because, like I mentioned before, this company is really known for having really great culture and just a really good environment at the workplace. And I've never been to the workplace. I will say the management is even better than I expected. I had no idea what working for a corporate entity would be like because all I did was teach. And it is more formal. There are certain processes that you're supposed to go to within departments and talking to other departments and whatnot, but there's a lot more structure there to help you. Finally, got one issue finished. It is approved. My documentation is done and it's in the correct folder for this weekly release. 1 out of 4 done, 3 left, then also regression test I have to make. Onward. If you're considering a job in QA, I would say it's very important that you're able to enjoy learning a lot. Hopefully you're interested in how things work or why things work, or just detail oriented and wanting things to be the best they can be. That's a big part of being a software tester, helping to create the best user experience. When I started the job, I also didn't realize that I would actually play a role in the creation of the software. As QA, you really do get a say in that, and you're kind of like the go-between between the developers and the user. Some people have asked me about taking courses to build up their resume. I'm sure that wouldn't hurt. I did look on Skillshare, and they seem to have a really in-depth course. I'll link it below. I would also say learning any coding languages would be to your benefit. There are sometimes some blind spots in testing where I don't realize how code works. So I know some QA jobs require you to know certain coding languages. That's something that would really just depend on the company you're gonna work for. Now I'm gonna go through some of the questions on my last QA focused video so I can make sure I answer them. Someone asked if I would have any tips for a beginner. They just started a boot camp on manual QA. You probably know way more than I did then when I started, because I knew nothing about QA really. My company had a pretty extensive training program, lasted a month, and I learned a lot really quickly. I guess my tip would just be to be patient, because especially when you get into whatever actual software you're going to be testing, it's going to be bigger and more complex than you think it is, and it's going to take a while to really understand how it all works together, most likely. So be patient with yourself and ask a lot of questions once you get into a team. Everyone's been there. One of these days you'll be the person answering people's questions. This person asked how I got this job without any prior experience in the field. So I do think two things really helped me. One, I had a connection. I have a friend that already worked at this company that kind of referred me to the recruiter. But this is a large company, so it's not just like that got me the job. I think also I was really able to relate my teaching experience to QA and show that I'm competent at these things. I have these skills and I can use them here as well. Things like time management, dedication, being detail-oriented and thorough. This next one asks, how long did it take you to become competent at your job? I am still getting there. I've been working there 8 months. I'd say it took at least 5 or 6 months for me to feel like I was starting to add value in our meetings, asking good questions and bringing up things that other people maybe didn't consider. I finally knew our system and our software enough to start pointing out like, oh, well, the user might expect this, or are we doing it this way? What about this? So I'd say 5 or 6 months, although I still would not say that I'm super competent. There's still a lot to learn. They also asked, was it a lot easier or harder than you imagined? It was harder. Yeah, I had no idea what I was getting into. Software is complex, but in some ways it's easier. Compared to teaching, it's easier mentally, or emotionally, because I can just sit here and do my job and figure it out, ask for help, but just figure it out instead of worrying about 30 teenagers at the same time. I got another one asking about courses for manual QA that also provide internships and help build your resume. Like I said, I didn't do anything beforehand, but I think that would definitely be a good idea, especially for those people who are saying everybody wants prior experience. Doing some type of course like this will show them that you have at least a foundational knowledge of what you're doing and that you're invested. And that's what companies really want, is people who are invested, that are gonna put forth the effort to do good work. If you want to, I'd say go for it. I would be careful about spending a lot of money on it, because I don't think it's necessary, or it wasn't in my experience. The last thing I want to leave you with, I recently found this assessment called the Sparketype Assessment, and it's kind of a career aptitude test, but it's different than most that I've taken because it focuses on what kind of work is going to bring you fulfillment. It's not going to point you toward a specific job, but it's kind of about how you should approach the work you do. I'll link it down below because I think it's great. It was very interesting to me. It actually helped point me in the direction of personal training, which is what I'm currently studying to be. If you have any other questions, please comment them down below. I will do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching.